to check if the women can see it, because last week they couldn't. Oh, they should be able. Oh, Nazi.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
Women have always been accorded a high place of esteem in Islam. Bibi Khadija provides us with an example of how a female can be an influential, successful businesswoman. In Bibi Fatima, we see an example of a woman standing up for her rights, and in Bibi Zainab, we see a true example of a woman as a knowledgeable figure who is able to lead spiritually. When discussing influential women in Islam, many of our examples seem to be rooted in the past, and that's fine, but how much do we know about what is going on today? During the times of the Prophet, women were very much at the forefront of religious authority. This has a lot to do with the fact that women were in close proximity with the Prophet and were able to witness the actions of the Prophet and then share the hadith and sunnah that they discovered. However, once the Prophet passed away, this was no longer an option as hadiths became fabricated and it was harder to tell which hadiths were legitimate from those that were not. Because of this, hadith transmission became formalized, excluding women from these religious circles. By being excluded from religious circles such as these, women lost their status as legitimate religious leaders. However, as Imam Ali has said, women have been given the responsibility of educating society and moving it towards perfection. Tonight, we want to discuss how women are truly living out the words of Imam Ali in contemporary periods. We will be looking at the examples of China, Turkey, and Iran as examples of women's increasing involvement in the Islamic community. And now Sarah is going to talk about China.
The first Muslims arrived in China during the Tang and Song dynasties and largely consisted of male traders. Chinese women began to marry these foreign Muslim merchants, leading to the beginning of the Muslim world in China. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, roughly around the 16th and 17th centuries, formal Islamic religious education was first established and developed along with the Islamic school for women. A prominent Muslim intellectual reformer, Huang Wanzhong, played a significant role in shaping the reform movement, including women's education. He proposed that women should be allowed to study modern Arabic languages just like male Muslims. This proposition was spread by the reformer scholar in many Muslim communities, including China. Women's education has deemed very important, and many agree it must be central to Muslim strategies for reform. Neither personal spiritual growth nor the necessary raising of collective religious awareness can take place without them. This educational movement has spread so quickly because it relied on traditional, extensive Muslim networks as well as the common awareness of the predicament of religious education and need for reform. In addition to considerable increase in women's education, women's mosques have also shown a dramatic growth in Muslim communities established throughout China at the turn of the 20th century. Major factors in contributing to the growing movement towards independence of women's mosques is the expectation in the larger Chinese society that sexual equality is a fact of modern life. The female religious culture of central China centers around these mosques, specifically built for women to perform religious ablutions, participate in worship, and to acquire some basic knowledge concerning precepts and rites. Not only do women congregate to perform religious acts of worship, but they also gather to talk about any event or issues of interest. Most women's mosques are generally located in courtyards of men's mosques and are often seen as subordinate to them as men organize the details of all events. However, any mosque established by women and by donations of women is considered independent. The most common occurrence is that women's mosques initially start out as subordinate and then gradually separate from men's mosques to become self-governing. In 1993 and 1995, the Chinese government registered or re-registered all sites which belong to the 5 major religions in China, setting the specific criteria for any church, temple, or mosque to become a legal place of religious activity. Any women's mosques that met these requirements were able to register as official sites of worship. This in turn gave the women's mosques an equal social status to their fellow men's mosques. In addition to this, females have the right to attend any conferences or meetings sponsored by the government departments related, and their leadership of these departments will visit the women's mosque, pay their respects, and convey their support on the occasion of religious festivals. The self-administered women's mosques have challenged many traditional ideas and exercised a profound and lasting positive impact on women's position in the religious world. The economy of the women's mosque has grown quickly since China began to reform and open to the outside world. This growth has laid the necessary material foundation for the development of women's religious culture. China's growth in women's mosques has also sparked advancements in other communities across the globe. Now, Shamim will be talking about women in Turkey.
With the fall of the Ottoman Empire at the end of World War I, Turkey was established as a nation-state. In order to compete with Western nations, Turkey became a secular government, and to legitimize its modernity, women were inserted into the public and political sphere beginning in the 1930s by the governing male elite. Women were encouraged to advance their education and to pursue careers that fostered their religious freedom. Although 95% of its citizens are Muslim, the first president of Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, established a ban on wearing the headscarf in the public sector, which included many workplaces, schools, and government buildings. President Atatürk felt that the headscarf was backward and created an image of uncivilized and uneducated women, an idea that many government officials in Turkey today still agree with. In fact, in a letter from a Turkish parliament member to the headscarf-wearing wife of the current Turkish president, he states, "Your dress style injures the image of Turkish women. Your personal choices cause an incorrect image of Turkish women abroad. If you will not change, stay at home. I respect your personal choices, but modern Turkish Republican women are not wearing headscarves and have adopted the Western civilized dress code." However, in the place of this opposition, many women are fighting against this secularization in order to practice their religion the way they see fit. In the 1980s, there was a university movement in which women began to wear headscarves to school. Although this was technically not allowed, the ban wasn't uniformly enforced, and many of these women were allowed to graduate. The government was upset about this, and in order to de-Islamicize the image of a woman wearing a veil, they allowed the term turban to be used, which is a head covering that doesn't cover both the back and the front of the ear or the bottom of the earlobes. However, instead of de-Islamicizing the women wearing turbans at school, it just made the word turban more of an Islamic word. In the 1990s, religious Muslim women began to reshape their identities to demand participation instead of representation. These women wished to differentiate themselves from the Islamic movement in Turkey. One member of the Capital's Women Platform stated, "We as a platform define ourselves as religious Muslim women. If we would just define ourselves as Muslim, others would say we are not Muslim. And we do not accept defining ourselves as Islamists because it indicates a political meaning. It refers to an Islamist party. But we define ourselves as religious, which means that religion is in the center of our lives." Religious Muslim women claim that the ban of the headscarf is a violation of their human rights. Women consider the ban a violation of their right to education and work, which they perceive as necessary for women to become independent individuals, because women who wear headscarves cannot go to universities or get jobs in public services. Women, in order to become independent individuals, women need to be able to have education and to work. Religious Muslim women have questioned this problematic relation of the concepts of freedom and conscience and secularism, and they have demanded their right to wear a headscarf in the public sphere in the name of freedom, and the right to follow their own conscience as a human right. The religious Muslim women have created organizations focused on determining women's problems and producing alternative perspectives, theoretical and practical solutions to improve women's intellectual, psychological, social, and economic situation, providing dialogue, communication, and solidarity between women, conducting activities by gathering different women around common beliefs. NGOs are also challenging the lack of education, the lack of legal rights of women, and the poverty rate among women in Turkey. For instance, all of the participants perceive the education of women and women's rights to work as pivotal for women to acquire economic and social independence. They produce education programs for women that are a combination of Islamic and scientific knowledge to encourage women to participate in Islamic and scientific production. Unfortunately, there is still a divide between the secular women and the religious women in women are excluded from the overall women's movement due to the opposition between traditional and modern women. The modern women believe that the religious Muslim women are stuck on their tradition and still see the headscarf as backward. The religious Muslim women feel as though women's organizations are ignoring the violation of religious Muslim women's rights. Until there is a better dialogue between the two groups, neither one will achieve the goal of equal opportunity for women in Turkey. Now Anar will discuss about Iran.
In contrast to Turkey, Iran witnessed a move away from westernization under the Shah's regime into a more theocratic state. Before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, women had no place to receive religious training. However, more than 3 decades after the revolution, women's seminaries have grown into powerful institutions for educating female religious experts. The groundwork for these religious institutions were established by two influential women, Nusrat Amin and Sivjee. Nusrat Amin is one of the most influential Shia female religious authorities of modern times, who in her own right granted men ijazas of ijtihad and riwayat. Nusrat Amin gained international acclaim beginning in the 1930s after publishing commentary on hadith. After her initial publications, she became widely recognized as an authoritative mujtahid among various Shia ulama, including Grand Ayatollah Yazdi. In 1965, Amin opened an all-girls Islamic high school in Isfahan, as well as an introductory Islamic studies seminary exclusively for women called Maqdadi Fatima. This school presented a unique opportunity for women who otherwise hardly had access to religious education. It also showed, through example, that women were able to receive and to teach the religious education that would put them on the theological authority equal to men. Although Amin was very successful in establishing schools, she lacked opportunities that were available to men, such as being able to communicate with other ulama of the time and being able to communicate with her male colleagues. Sivjee, on the other hand, witnessed the strengthening of the Islamic education system. During Sivjee's time, we can see the increase of seminary education. The reasons for the rise of seminary education throughout Iran can be attributed to a number of reasons. The first of which being the fact that the new Iranian regime produced an environment that encouraged women's religious education. After the establishment of the theocracy, Ayatollah Khomeini issued a sanction that called for the establishment of female seminaries in order to educate women to become religious experts. The first seminary founded under this sanction was Jamiat al-Zahra, and Sivjee is one of the teachers and founders of this seminary. Another reason for the increase in seminary education is the fact that they've been given the same equivalency of universities. So in 1997, the Management Center for Women's Seminaries was established and was bestowed the responsibility of developing a curriculum and establishing entrance exams that established a degree equivalent to those of universities. The seminaries were established into 3 different levels, with level 1 and 2 being equivalent to a bachelor's degree and level 3 being equivalent to a master's degree. Because women are now able to receive degrees that are equivalent to university degrees, they have more access to jobs and other clerical establishments. Although these seminaries are revolutionary in providing women with opportunities for religious education, they still face many challenges in the fact that these female seminaries are considered second priority to male seminaries. Women do not have the same textbooks that men do. They are often given textbooks that are older and have less material than men's textbooks do. They have limited resources due to tight budgets, and they're also prohibited from many different resources that males have access to. So these events are ongoing in the present time, so it should be interesting to see how women confront these challenges in the future.
We just gave you 3 examples of different groups of women that are working to focus their role in Islam. Women across the world are struggling with different issues, whether it's the right to equal education, the right to wear hijab the way they wish, or the right to equal opportunities. Even in the United States, women are constantly faced with different issues. we believe that the shift in ideology that's causing the women currently to work towards bringing out more, to incorporate themselves in the male-dominated society came from the era of globalization, having easier access to education and to textbooks. We're lucky to be a part of a community that respects the women's opinions and gives us the opportunity to stand up here and speak in front of you. However, there are communities in Southern California that it's not the same. What we can do today, as both men and women, is continue to educate ourselves, continue to promote equal opportunity in our Jamaat and others. We'd like to open the floor to any questions. Okay, so today we're also
Good job, there's no question.
today we're also celebrating the Wiladat of Imam Hassan. We'd like to invite our junior boys, Anar, Kabir, and Faisal, up to speak a few words.
الله صل على